One thing I can't abide in an outdoorsman is whining. That's why my persnickety next-door neighbor, Al Finley, gets on my nerves so much. One little thing will go wrong, and he has to whine about it for several years. Wretch Sweeney and I have been trying to teach hunting to Finley. Last week on a pheasant hunt, we concentrated on social skills. How come I always gotta be the one to go up to the farmer's house and ask permission to hunt on his land? Because you need to practice, that's why. That's absolutely right. And if you had paid attention to our instructions on how to make friends with the farmer's dogs, this never would have happened. Now, just pay attention. Take this little mutt here. Notice that he is growling at me. First, I start by smiling at him and speaking softly. Hey, nice doggy. Now, I carefully reach out and scratch him behind the ears. Ah, you like that, don't you, Pooch? Now, he's wagging his tail, always a good sign. He's rolling his big brown eyes up at me like I'm his long-lost friend. And there we go. I have unclamped him from your rear end, Finley. It's about time, too. Should have let me slam the little beast's head in the car door like the way I wanted to. Cripes. That's why we're trying to teach you some social skills, Finley. Farmers never let you hunt on their land after you slammed their dog's head in a car door. Why, you silly. All right, let's calm down. Let's analyze what happened here. Finley, you were told not to run if a dog threatened you. And you ran. That's the worst thing you could do. It really excites the dog to attack. This little fella got so excited he leapt and snapped onto your rear. I admit Reg and I shouldn't have laughed, but when you crossed that picket fence with that little fella flapping behind you, yeah, really funny. I'll tell you what, the next farmhouse, one of you can go up and ask permission and show me how it's done. Social Skills by Patrick McManus. The next farmhouse looked like an excellent prospect for hunting, particularly since we had to stop the car while a huge herd of pheasants crossed the road into one of the overgrown fields. The farm was not typical of the area, where most places were kept in tip-top condition. Here, the fields were full of weeds, the fence posts askew or rotted off, the buildings in need of paint, pieces of farm machinery and old cars were scattered about in various stages of disintegration. The farmhouse itself had a brooding, threatening aspect to it. We stopped the car a ways on the driveway and stood at the house for a few moments. Here's where you pass or fail the final exam on hunting and social skills, Finley. Get on up there and get us permission to hunt. Are you crazy? Didn't you see that sign back there? Trespassers will be shot, ground up, and fed to the hogs. That just goes to show you the farmer has a sense of humor. Now get a move on. No! You want to walk home? All right, stop. Tell you what, I'll walk on up there with you, but you have to do all the talking. Finley reluctantly agreed. As we were getting out of the car, Wretch glanced nervously around and said, Hey, I'll tell you what, while you guys are getting permission to hunt, I'll zip back to that little town back there and get us some stuff for lunch. How does that sound? Before I could tell him how that sounded, he had already shot back up the driveway. Great! Just great! Now if a dog takes after us, we'll have to run all the way back to town to slam his head in a car door. Speaking of dogs, look at the size of that doghouse over there. That's not a doghouse, it's way too big. Then why is the name Fido painted over the door? I don't know, maybe they have a Shetland pony they call Fido. Just look at the size of the chain hooked to the house over there. Obviously a dog would have to be the size of a horse to get a chain like that. There doesn't seem to be a dog of any kind around here anyway, otherwise it'd be out here barking at us by now. Maybe it's setting a trap for us, luring us in close so he can jump on us. Would you stop? I sized up the situation. The back door looked like the best bed to knock on. It was off an enclosed carport, which unfortunately did not contain a vehicle. This is usually a bad sign, an indication that no one is home. I told Finley to knock on the door anyway, which he did. No one was home. Disappointed, we turned to leave, but stopped so abruptly our shoes made little squeaking sounds on the concrete floor. A massive black beast with dog-like features was slowly advancing up the entry of the carport. Lips curled back, revealing fangs the size of railroad spikes. Great rumbling sounds emerged from its dark interior. Serious no-nonsense growls, the self-righteous growls of a dog that knows it has caught two burglars on the property and is now going to redeem itself with its master for all its past mischief by tearing the intruders to shreds. On the size and mouth of the beast, I doubted there would be enough of us to serve to the hogs as an appetizer. I realized instantly the futility of reasoning with such a creature. What I needed was a diversion. Suddenly, one leaped to mind. Run, Finley. It's your only chance. Finley, still making little squeaking sounds, just shook his head. Why he picked this time to follow my previous instructions about dogs, I don't know, but I was a great deal peeved at it. The giant monster backed us slowly towards the rear of the carport. As I eased backward, trying to shield myself with what was at hand, named Finley, I reached out and I leapt inside and started to gesture for Finley to follow. He was standing in the middle of the kitchen. That's explaining that blur that had passed me a moment before. I slammed the door just as the dog leapt at it. But the door held, now bent slightly inward. The dog, obviously disappointed, set himself to the task of gnawing his way through the door. While Finley stood in the middle of the kitchen and shook, I tried to figure out a way out of our current predicament. Then I noticed I was eating a peach. I hadn't been eating a peach when I entered the house, and now I was eating a peach. How odd. I looked at the kitchen table, and there were 4 peaches in a bowl. I had absent-mindedly snatched up a peach and started eating it. Such is my concentration at the moment. With some amusement, I started to call Finley's attention to this, only to discover he was staring at me in gaping horror. You're eating a peach. Not only do you break and enter, you eat the farmer's food. We're gonna do time for this. Don't be silly. If the farmer comes back before we get out of here, we'll just explain the situation to him. I'm sure he'll understand. Understand? Well, I suppose you have a better idea? Well, hide! Nonsense. I'm sure the farmer will respond with good humor to my explanation of the incident. In fact, I wouldn't be a great deal surprised if he gave himself a good chuckle. A car coming up the driveway. It contained a beefish man, a hulking teenage boy, and a large husky woman. All were yelling and scowling back at each other. What's that doing? Luther, go chain him up. First I got 2 flat tires and run out of gas, and then I come home to see my dog eat my house. What comes next? One more thing goes wrong today, I'm gonna fly off the handle. When that farmer comes through the door of this house and sees 2 complete strangers standing in the middle of his kitchen, you think he's gonna give me time for an explanation? I think I just came up with a better idea, Al. Hide. Finley dodged into a doorway which turned out to be a bathroom. I tried to explain to him that a bathroom was a terrible place to hide from a family that had just returned from a trip to town, but it was too late. Someone was tramping angrily up the stairs. I ducked into a hall closet and left it open a crack so I could peek out. The farmer's husky wife strode angrily down the hall. She opened the door, closed it. I braced myself for the scream. I thought it possible the farmer's wife might scream too, but it seemed unlikely. Probably she would just hurl Finley through the closed door and then come out and stomp him. Perhaps while she was stomping him, I could make a break for it. Finley might yet serve as a diversion. Presently, however, the woman came out of the bathroom and went off down the hall. Then Finley stuck his head out of the door. Psst. I hid in the shower. Now I'm sure we're gonna do time. Finley sank into what seemed to be a near paralysis. I dragged him by his shirt front and into a bedroom, where I opened the door and threw him out. He bounced on the carport roof, slid down to the edge, and dropped unharmed to the ground. Having ascertained that the escape route wasn't likely to cause serious injury, I followed him to the ground. He was sitting there in a befuddled state, which was a great deal more pleasant than his constant whining. I pulled him to his feet, dusted him off, and started towards the driveway. However, Fido set up a maniacal barking. What the? Good day, sir! Fine place you have here. Excellent watchdog, too, I might add. Big fellow, isn't he? Probably good with children. But to the point, sir. I was wondering if you might be so kind to let us hunt on your property. Oh, shucks, mister, I don't mind at all. Just shut the gates after yourselves. Good luck. Stop by on your way out. The wife's gonna bake a peach pie. Be pleased to have you for some coffee and some pie. Oh, we'd be delighted. At that moment, the farmer's wife screamed from the kitchen. Luther, you rotten kid, you ate one of the peaches I was saving for the pie. I did not. Luther, don't lie. Ain't safe to leave food around that kid. Boys will be boys, I guess. Rich arrived back just then. I thanked the farmer for his generosity and started towards the car, dragging Finley by his shirt front. How'd it go? Fine, we can hunt. What's wrong with Finley? Nothing more than a little more practice in the social skills of hunting won't cure. But he's so pale and shaky, he ain't even whining. Oh, don't worry, he'll get around to it.